Alright, hello everyone. It is me, Pippi Pawpaw. Today I am going to be playing a bit of Geometry Dash. Uh, I've played some of this already. I'm trying to get better at the game because I checked. I believe I am currently statistically the worst player in Geometry Dash. So, I've been working on Can't Let Go. I moved on from Polargeist because I beat it on mobile. Uh, and I just haven't beaten it on PC yet, and I don't feel like doing that right now. So I'm just, because I know I can when I want to, so I'm just gonna focus on Can't Let Go for today. Hold on a sec, gotta kick out my cat. He was being extra annoying because he did not understand that I was trying to get him to leave, and therefore he was being squirmy and annoying to carry. Anyways, so yeah, I'm sure most of you know what Geometry Dash is by now. Um, I've gotten pretty close before, but Oh, sorry, hold on. I have to turn down the volume. No, wrong thing. I was gonna say, because usually I play this on my computer, but right now the sound is coming out of my monitor. Um, because I'm using my monitor so I can record and play the game at the same time. But it's just, I forgot that means it's much louder. Anyways, that's a bit better. Ah, frick. Sounds still a bit annoying though, because ugh. It's a little more annoying because like I was gonna say because I still have an old monitor because I can't be bothered to spend the money getting a new one. Um, and just the audio is crunchy and it gets annoying sometimes whenever there's like a sharp note in the game in the music of a game that I'm playing. So yes, audio quality does matter. Dang it. That is usually the percent that I choke at, but that's not usually how I choke. I mean, I kind of almost don't want to call that choking because like frick. I almost don't want to call that choking because like, you know, that is what is known as a choke point, but I kind of almost rather refer to it as just like the place where I keep dying a lot, mostly because like to my brain, that's not a choke point. I that that's not it's a choke point, but it's not an example of me choking. An example of me choking is like the several times I've gotten past 90% and then messing up in places that I shouldn't have that I should not have messed up in. Anyways, probably gonna talk a lot less now because I really need to focus. Or, since my brain is in YouTuber mode, I'm probably just gonna end up talking uncontrollably. And... fuck. I didn't mean to swear. It'll be our little secret, I guess. YouTube doesn't need to know. Anyways. I was just gonna say, or since I'm in YouTuber mode, I'll just keep rambling nervously and just be bad at the game, I guess. Oh, and by the way, keep in mind before you go to... I mean, I don't want to be the one to start anything, but honestly, keep in mind before you go into the comments, first of all, you know, like, there's not really... like, there's not really a point in you calling me... Like, before you go to call me bad, first of all, well, I know that. I already went out of my way to tell you guys that I'm bad at this game. Second of all... Frick. Second of all, before you say anything about my gaming skills, or for that matter, anyone else's, because I don't want you guys being mean to other people, don't hate if you don't... Don't hate if you're not confident that you... Don't hate if you don't know that you could if you don't know that you could actually do as much as they're doing. And even if you know you could do that or more, still don't hate because that's mean, honestly. Because hating on people who are worse at a game than you is what's known as gatekeeping. And that's how toxic communities are formed. So honestly, there's the whole, like, don't hate if you... Like, at this point I'm rambling a bit, but, like, you know, people say, like, don't hate if you can't... Frick. Like, don't hate if you can't do that. But honestly, just don't hate, period. If you're better than a person, then teach them to be... If you're better than a person, don't call them bad, and teach them to be as good as you. Because you can still get satisfaction out of being a good person as opposed to being a bad person, and other people will like you more. Like, you can get a high off of doing... You can get a high off of doing the right thing as much as you can get a high off of doing the wrong thing. And people will like you better for it. Anyways. By the way, if I sound distant or quiet, it's probably just because I'm busy pressing my face directly up against the computer so I can focus harder. No! See, that's my point. That's my point about choking. I was at exactly 90%. I was at exactly 90%, and I should have been able to make that click, but I was, like, just a little too late. Sorry, I got startled. There was something touching my foot. I think it was just a wire. It startled me. But yeah, like, I think the reason why I jumped a bit too late is because usually the times I choke at 90% is when I stop being precise and start pressing buttons really early. Crap. So that's just a long way of saying I think the reason why I had trouble there is just because I overestimated on account of the fact that I've been bitten before. I've been hurt by early timings before. Anyways, I'm gonna focus now. So honestly, I saw this guy earlier, like, playing Geometry Dash, like, live on stream or whatever, and it's just like, I kept being in my head like, oh my god, you should not be, you can do this, you are dying on parts you should not be dying. I now realized why that kept happening to him. I mean, one, like, there's a certain point with this game where, like with any other game, if you play this long enough, if you play a certain level long enough or get tired enough, like, you're gonna start messing up in places that weren't an issue. You're gonna start messing up in places that haven't always been an issue. But also, I guess I clicked, like, right before I hit the ground, but whatever. I was gonna say also, like, I was gonna say, this is the kind of game, I am now realizing that this is the kind of game that becomes a lot harder when your attention is divided between the game and trying to entertain an audience. I don't know, I guess most of the videos I've recorded before are either... most of the videos I've recorded before, I've been playing games where that's just not an issue for me. Crap. Whereas with this game, this is a game that I have absolutely no natural talent for. like I've already mentioned, this is the kind of game I... Also, this is one of those games of, like, this is a bit of an exaggeration, but this is one of those games where, like, you kinda... Frick. Jumped a bit too early. To make any... Crap. To make any substantial headway into... This is one of those games where to make a substantial amount of progress, sometimes you kinda have to hate yourself a little bit. And I will reiterate that that is an exaggeration. What I mean is more like, this is kind of one of those games where, like, you're... Sometimes you're kind of gonna have to force yourself to keep playing, because if you're only... Because if you're only playing as much... Because if you're only if you're playing this game and then quitting immediately at the first signs of frustration, always, every time you start to get frustrated, then, like, you're going to take way too long to make any substantial amount of... you're going to take way too long to develop any substantial amount of skills with this game. So that's a very long way of saying, this is... You have to be willing to be patient and commit to playing one level. When I used to play it, like, on and off as a little kid, that was an issue for me, because it was basically just, like, every time I opened the game... I didn't play it that often, and every time I opened the game, if I couldn't beat a level in 5 attempts, basically, I just would move on to another level. And I still do that sometimes. Although that's mostly an issue I have when I'm playing on mobile. Mostly, but I will say that's mostly because mobile, you know... Mobile... Crap. When I'm playing on mobile... Usually if I'm playing on mobile, I'm not making a serious attempt at anything. But yeah, I mean, like, I was saying, like, if I didn't beat a level in, like, 5 attempts, but honestly, I mean, like, I never actually beat any of these levels. The first level I beat was, you know, Stereo Madness, which is most people's first level, probably. But, like, I didn't beat that until, like, a couple of months ago, like, towards the beginning of the school year. And then since then, like, at some point, in terms of progress, at some point I beat Back on Track. I didn't remember beating it, though. So, you know, but whatever. And then, yesterday, I beat Polargeist, Dryout, and Base After Base. And Polargeist I beat on mobile, which is, as I mentioned at the beginning of this video. And yes, that matters, because... For people who don't know, on mobile, frame rate, like, you know, the frame rate of your phone is probably worse than the frame rate of your computer, obviously. But in this game, frame rate matters a lot, because, like, for example, the difference between 60 frames a second and 240 frames a second, like, 240, that's, because that's, like, 4 times as many opportunities in a second to make a click, to make a successful click. So it's just like... Basically, the reason why a high frame rate is important for this game is basically just for the same reason why a high frame rate is important for any game. the main... The main thing is just... The main difference is just, like, unlike most games, Geometry Dash... Crap. The main difference is that, unlike most games, Geometry Dash has a high enough skill ceiling that, like, frame rates past, like, 60 frames per second will actually make a difference. Like, as far as I know, for most games, if you're playing at anything past 60 frames per second, like, if you're, like, for, like, most games, as far as I know, if you're playing at any frame rate past 60 FPS, then you're probably just doing that because you like the visual smoothness. So, other than that, like, but whereas, like, for Geometry... Whereas for Geometry Dash, like, Whereas for Geometry Dash, there's, like, enough tight timings that it actually affects the gameplay. And yes, I know there's games like Dark Souls, but, like, trust me, I don't know a lot of this from personal experience, but I watched a video made by someone who does know what they're talking about, and they were saying... And they were saying, like, there are challenges in Geometry Dash harder than, like, a lot of, like, dev-made challenges and stuff. Like, Bloodbath from Geometry Dash is harder than FNAF 5020 mode, and stuff like that. And there's just, like, a certain point where, like... And there's, like, just a certain point where, like, the difficulty of certain levels exceeds that of, like, any widely known game in existence. Like there is no dev-made content. Like, there is no widely known dev-made content that's quite the same in terms of difficulty, is the point. Finally, oh my god. Oh, I'm so happy I didn't choke. Oh, I misread jumps as attempts, so... Oh, I'm a little dizzy. Okay, so total attempts, 218. That's also not including the attempts on my phone, because I've played this game on and off, which means I've installed and uninstalled and reinstalled it, or whatever. So that also... So, like, almost half of this level I learned just playing off my phone. Anyways, honestly, I'm not gonna start a new level at this point. I'm just gonna clear Polargeist. I'm just gonna, like, commit to clearing Polargeist because, like, again, the other day yesterday, after I had beaten it on mobile, I tried to clear it on PC, because I was thinking, like, hey, I know I can do this, but, you know, I died and, like, immediately gave up. But as I mentioned, I know I can, and it's easier than trying to beat an entirely new level within the next 7 minutes. Also, earlier when I was thinking of recording this video, this was already my plan. Like, you know, my plan was pretty much just, if I beat, can't let go, if I beat, can't let go, and the video isn't already insanely long, then I'm just gonna finish Polargeist because, you know. But anyways, point is, I want to finish Polargeist because because even though I already beat it on mobile and can still say truthfully that I beat it on mobile, you know, at some point or another, I'm going to want to go back and clear it on PC, just so I can have a long, continuous array of all the, like, 100% complete main levels. So just, you know, long way of saying, sure, I've beaten it at least, sure, I've beaten it once already, but I want to have beaten every level, but I want to have beaten every main level in Geometry Dash on a single copy of the game, is the point. Nice. Bro, why'd that thing look like a portal cube? Anyways, so I'm gonna make a small attempt at Jumper just because I have a little bit of time, but but this video's already almost 30 minutes long, and that's not including the outro. That's probably gonna be a minute long because I take forever to talk and stuff. Crap. So, all that is to say that I am not making a serious attempt at Jumper right now. I'm just playing it a little because I have time. So I already had a blast. So I already had like a blast trying to learn nerve control for Can't Let Go. But I feel like this is the level that is going to, like, truly, like, completely and utterly just destroy me if I don't learn if this level is the level where I learn nerve control or I die. And I do not mean die literally, I just mean, like, you know. I did not mean to make that jump. I did not mean to skip a platform like I did. So, you know, that's fun. Kind of slightly surprised that there's not a coin there. Because... crap. Because in this game, there are a few secret coins where, like... where basically how you get them... dang it. Where basically how you get them is just, like... You're not supposed to skip from platform to platform. But if you do, you can... You're not supposed to skip from platform to platform, and it's a much harder jump to do so. But if you do, you're rewarded with a secret coin. Oh, crap. Oh, dang it, I was so close. Okay, so I see. So this is the level where you are not only... So this is not... So at this point in the game, assuming you're playing all of the levels in a row, and committing to, like, beating each one before moving on and blah blah blah, at this point in the... crap. Forgot I had to jump there. Again. At this point in the game, you will have already... You will already know... You will already understand the concept of... crap. You will by this point in the game, you will already understand the concept of upside down. But this is the part of the game where they introduce you to the concept of... oh, I got lucky, and then it didn't matter. This is the part of the game... This is the level... This is the level where they teach you to be upside down in game modes other than the cube. Which I personally do not vibe with. I've played a bit of levels like Hexagon Force, like within the first 25% of Hexagon Force, there's an inverted ship, and so far I only have like 16% on Hexagon Force because that's where the inverted ship starts, and that's where I have choked. I have choked on it every time I've tried it. Crap. Shouldn't have messed that up. I was gonna say, like... And you might think, well, like... It shouldn't matter because it's the same... Like, you know... It shouldn't matter because it's the same click pattern either way, right? So you can just, like, memorize the click pattern and stuff. But no, it does... To me, as a beginner, this might just be a... I'm not... And I don't want to say a skill issue, I'm gonna say more, this might just be the kind of thing that... It might just be, like, as I've mentioned already, Geometry Dash is a game with the kind of gameplay that my brain just cannot comprehend. So my issues with inverted gameplay might just be an extension of that. But, like, it just messes with you. Crap. Anyways, speaking of messing with me, it also messes up my uninverted ship, because, like, I keep going too high when I'm uninverted, so that's just lovely. Yeah, but anyways, I think I'm gonna end it here. Let me know if you guys want to see me do more Geometry Dash, but don't expect this to be a continuous series, because I am gonna play in my own time. I just wanted something to post. But again, let me know if you want to see a progress update. I'm probably gonna be on this level for a little bit. I mean, like, again, the video I was talking about earlier, like, was, like, talking about, like, harder, and this is a harder level, and then there's also insane levels. Harder and insane levels are levels that, for a beginner, it's reasonable to say that for a beginner, those would be a week-long time investment. If we ignore the on and off casual gameplay of Can't Let Go, that took me, like, 2 days. That's not a week-long time investment. It took me a little longer than a day, like he was saying, but that's pretty good. I'm already at 36% here. It's reasonable to estimate that this is probably going to take me at least a week to beat. And as a beginning player, that's reasonable. I've just never gotten this far before because I've never committed to playing the game nearly as much before. I don't know. Something about being on the computer makes it easier to commit to. Whatever. Anyways, like I said, let me know if you want progress updates or whatever, and I'll see you later. Bye.